Dr. Hassan Mahmud, the Director of Monetary Policy Department at the Central Bank of Nigeria, is with me here. Dr. Mahmud, good to see you. Welcome back. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I hope that 2022 will be better. Just while we were talking during the break, while the governor was, you said 2022 will be better.
Yeah.
On why?
Well, the prospect of 2022 is more optimistic. We came out from the base effect of 2020, which when we had almost everything negative, in terms of the GDP, in terms of the peak of the inflation numbers, in terms of the deteriorations in the external sector, in terms of inflows. So we had all the negatives, at their peak in 2020. 2021 was a period where we're trying to pull out of the muddy waters. We came out of that by the fourth quarter of 2021. 2022 is now time to start, growing. You're already, the sinking ship is now off top of the sea, so it's now time to sail. So we expect, improvements to come in most of the key indicators or measures of better economic performance, whether it's in the external sector, whether it's in the domestic sector, whether it's in prices, domestic prices, employment, credit expansion. We accept all that, given the policy measures that have already been taken. This is a period of consolidation and a faster recovery for the economy. So even from the forecast that we've seen, particularly for Nigeria, we see stronger growth in 2022, even though 2023 and 2024 we still see some decline in those numbers. But principally, if you compare this 2020, 2021, you see 2022 is a more positive trajectory that we'll be expecting. We're also mindful of the fact that uncertainties still remain. There are still shocks, external shocks, parameters coming up from different angles, whether it's in terms of the normalization coming up, whether in terms of the inflation numbers, whether in terms of some geopolitical issues that may affect the demand for fuel or petrol and other, and then domestically to also have socioeconomic and sociopolitical challenges. So all that, play a role in how, achievable or your forecast will crystallize.
What is the forecast? I want you to tell Nigerians. I heard it from Central Bank Governor yesterday, though. What is the economic forecast for growth this year from the Central Bank of Nigeria? Because even the IMF came up with theirs. They keep on revising, even for SSA, that's Sub-Saharan Africa and all of that. What is the growth rate for this year, and where is the CBN seeing that growth rate coming from?
For 2021, we had projected that, at least for staff estimates, central bank staff estimate that the economy will grow at around 3%. The IMF is looking at 2.7%. The government or the fiscal authorities are looking at close to 4% or above 4%. For 2022, which, like I said, is a period of consolidation and harmonizations of policy tools, and also a period of reviewing crisis policy tools. Most economists now are shifting from excessive stimulus injection to now, pulling that back, asset buyback and all, slowing down those things, because everything has a threshold. After a particular threshold, they become injurious to the economy. So for 2022, we're expecting that the economy will still grow around 3%. IMF has not really changed its projection. It actually increased that forecast. The CBN staff estimate is still around 2.6, 2.7% for 2022, and stronger, expectations are that those growth drivers, if they improve substantially, then we see, the GDP numbers going above 3%. At a very optimistic or high, probability of occurrence. This will be largely driven by the fact that, yes, all the injections around supply side constraints, all the interventions by the fiscal and monetary authorities to start, yielding fruits by first, second quarter of 2022. So if you see that production and productivity improving substantially, then you see the GDP numbers going up strongly. If the inflows that are also coming in, there are a lot of measures around, helping SMEs, households, and small businesses. That will, the spread of that, the base of that is a lot larger than when you have these conglomerates and the big businesses like the petroleum sector that are contributing less to the economy. But these smaller ones, contribute more to employment, contribute more to poverty reduction, contribute more to improving standard of living, and then contribute more to even the build-up of aggregate demand. So you see all those coming in, and the higher the build-up in the aggregate demand, so also is the inventories depleted from the supply side. So you see GDP numbers also going up substantially from that. So projections above 3% are still very strong for 2022, and external shocks mitigants are also, very much in place now in the sense that from most of the analysis we've done, issues around normalization, issues around remittances, issues around FX supply within the economy. There are, concrete measures being done in those areas to ensure that we curtail the impact of external shocks on the domestic, because those contribute. That's why when you see we do the MPC, when the MPC meetings are being conducted, there's a lot of analysis around global developments, because the economy is a small open economy. External shocks contribute more to the distortions you see in the economy than even the domestic fundamentals. So a lot of measures were taken in terms of, shielding the penetration of those shocks or limiting the distortionary effect of those shocks. That will also support, your ability to grow domestically.
Okay, in just simple terms, because what you've said now is that the economy will be better this year. The economy GDP growth will be at around 3%. In simple terms, explain it to Nigerians what it means, and if they should be hopeful, really, like we said earlier, that 2022 will be better, according to the according to CBN. Explain it to them in a language they will understand. That CBN has said or is saying, "Our lives go better for this year. Una go make more money. Money will dey in our pockets, no go dey eroded by inflation." I hope you understand what I mean. So that they can actually make sense of what we're saying, and it's not as if we're just talking too much English with so much mathematics around it.
Yes, there are two sides to it. That GDP numbers grew. GDP means output, economic activities.
What you and I do.
Yes, what we do, the businesses we do, the people that are in salons, people that are in their farms, people that are barbers, all those activities. The ability for you to sustain those activities and be doing your own production, whether in terms of goods or services, continuously, making your own gains, retaining your workers, also being able to pay your bills, are the kind of activity measure of GDP. And what we're saying is that those should be sustained in the sense that those should continue in 2022. The economic environment that will help you to do that, including having the basic infrastructure, making the public utilities working, having access to credit, having security, and all other issues that surrounds your ability to continue like that. Because some of the things your running capital or working capital will provide, some you expect the state, the government, to already have in place for you. If you produce things in the farm, you should be able to get vehicles that will have petrol, that can drive from Abuja or from Kogi to Lagos or wherever you deliver those things. Because at the end of it, the foods that are produced in the farms should get to the market, and that's when you get your return. So what we're saying, that is one side of it. The other side of it is the value of it. Because that can increase, but inflation can wipe out that real value in terms of. So while the GDP numbers are growing, it is also important that the inflation rate is coming down. So one, real wages will be a lot higher. Disposable income, that is the incomes you earn now, what you get from it. Because if you are producing something and you're getting 100,000, you know, maybe at the end of every quarter, and then inflation was 10%. So you can still go and buy things, pay your rent, and buy car, buy whatever you want to do. But in the second quarter, you still get your 100,000, but inflation is now 17%. You can't buy the same things again. So it's important that we're looking at both sides. Central bank is more, monetary policy is more at looking at the other side of prices, domestic prices. That's where the tools of central bank are most effective. To do the other side of output growth, you know, you need fiscal authority, you need private sector, you need a lot of players, investors to play in there. So there's a need to harmonize that too, so that because if one is successful and the other is not, the net effect will still be negative. So what I'm saying in a nutshell is that we expect output, economic activities to boom in this period, such that the TCF, target credit facility that we give to small businesses that are doing things, will help engage a lot of people in the lower base of the economy. And so even those that are producing the big factories, the flour mills, the cement companies, have people to buy off those things. Because if you don't have that demand for your products, and then your businesses cannot, inventories will be building up, so you cannot sell your things. And if you are not able to sell your stuff, you lay off your workers to keep your business going or to break even. And if you lay off workers, then those people will fall back into the poverty group, unemployment, and stuff, and they will not be able to contribute to the rest of the economy. I think generally that is the picture we're seeing in layman's term. But there are also the external side of it. Like I keep saying that when we look at all this, you can't remove issues around exchange rates. You can't remove issues around imported inflation, because inflation is rising in other countries. Because we are importing from those countries, those increased prices will come to you. And when you build your own margin and other costs, and whether you borrow money and your interest and whatever, you spread that on this. By the time the thing gets to you, the prices are a lot higher for you. So we're also looking at that side. How, one, can you concentrate on doing your things locally? And that's why the PPP that central bank is doing now is for companies that are more 90–100% local, in the sense that all their raw materials, all their machineries, they can be sourced locally. Because even if you said, okay, like agriculture that is going on now, mechanization now requires that you import some of these equipments. If you have to import them and you don't have enough FX, so you have issues around the price at which you get your FX. If inflation is going up in those countries, interest rates are rising in the countries where you're going to import them, you build it up into their prices. So when you bring them in, as you are doing your
it will reflect.
Yes, cost of production will be a lot higher. So you now see prices are not going down. And you start seeing the same thing with manufacturing. So it's looking at both domestic and external and seeing how that can help in terms of, because what is important is growth that is inclusive. We don't want to say GDP is 10%, 7%, more people are getting poorer, unemployment is higher. So let more people participate in that GDP growth.
So does it mean to say that, of course, the central bank is still hinged on the pro-growth measures this year?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me now take it from this perspective. Do you think that because of the CBN's umbrella of so many intervention funds, the TCF, real sector support facility, ties for tertiary institutions, you have CACs, you have Alcoboras program, you have commercial credit agriculture scheme, you have, is it ADD or AAD for state? I can go on and on. Would you also say that perhaps the MPC has been a bit complacent in executing monetary policy? Why? Because of that CBN umbrella of a lot of intervention funds, to say, okay, let them criticize, this is what the CBN is doing, so let's sit back and watch. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
I understand your point, yes.
Yeah.
Central bank looked at this development, this scenario that you just painted, from a holistic perspective. The question will always be, your mandate is price and monetary stability. What is inflation? When you sit down, you want to address the issues around inflation. The question you ask is, what are the drivers of those inflation? At different times, different factors drive inflation. What are the drivers of this inflation? Is it government spending? Is it central bank spending? Is it the excess liquidity within the system? Is it other issues that are related to supply, things that we call structural issues? There is what we call the demand pull inflation, because too many people have money, so they are looking for the same thing, so the price will go up. And there are also the supply push. The costs of doing things are so high, so they are transferring it to the price. So you need to very clearly understand what are the drivers of inflation, so that you know which policy tools or which instruments you use to address them. And that the fact that central bank is involved in some of these developmental issues, I think is a call out of necessity. One, fiscal space is tightening. Crisis came in. Other sectors that are supposed to support output growth, as the real sectors and stuff like that, are in very, poor or, very bad states. Is it the power sector? Is it the infrastructure, the roads, the railways? And so if you said you just sit down and be looking at prices, if you are able to manage the demand side, you pump money into the hands of people, create all those credit and stuff like, which is within the purview of the monetary authorities. So long as the supply is not coming, that money will also become inflationary. And then you'll be shooting yourself in the foot. So you won't be able to address the inflationary side of it. So what central bank now did was that, okay, let's look at the critical sectors that are important to improve supply and support those sectors. Everything we do through banks. It's not that central bank will go to the public and give it. Go through banks or NISA and support those sectors. Encourage banks too to also invest in those sectors. Some 10, 20 years ago, banks don't even give loans for agriculture. But we've created, de-risk that sector, the NISA that was created, so that, because we know from our own economic characteristics that sector, the rural sector, is the largest proportion of the economy, and agriculture employs the largest number of people, because maybe they are unskilled, because maybe they don't have the prerequisite resources or infrastructure to go into more ICT or technologically driven projects. So, but you need this population that we are talking about is part of the economy. So getting those on board, and that's why you see CBN interventions are more to households and farms, SMEs, the SMEDAN activities that we do, the CACs that you just mentioned, credit for, bigger agricultural mechanizations and stuff like that. They are all targeted at, on how do I put it, easing the difficulties from this supply side, so that when supply comes in, so the injections you do will be able to pick up those things from the rest of the economy. So driving output growth to support supply within the economy so that prices can go down. If you look at the composition of the inflation numbers, there's the core, there's the food. Food is also playing a big role there. The core has to do with energy prices, petroleum prices, which is still outside of the bank. But food is the main thing that is also driving this.
Okay, let me take it from this angle as we end the program. Governor Emefiele also noted yesterday that the rise in December 2021 inflation is transitory. I noted that and I was like, oh, okay, transitory, not permanent, so to speak. We saw inflation at 15.63% in December of 2021. Does the central bank think that inflation will really fade away quickly? And if it does, why? Because even at inflation at around 15–16% average for 2021 is still high, just like I said. Yesterday is very, very high. So what will make it fade? Dr. Mahmud, don't give me this answer of supply side, we're doing all this thing. What will make it really fade away? I know those things, but is there something else that can be done that will make inflation fade away quickly?
Well, what the governor said was the fact that, yes, we've seen 7–8 months consecutive decline. Before that, we were seeing like more than 10 months consecutive increase. So measures were taken to address that. Then we started seeing the decline consecutively. Then we now saw a hike in December. When the MPS released their report, they also mentioned the reasons behind that, which is still around the festive period. there won't be Christmas in January or February. So there won't be New Year in January or
So
February.
people celebrate
So we
Christmas every day.
So we don't expect that shock that came within that period to. Also, don't forget that even within this period, we see because of the stimulus packages, you know, a lot of liquidity or income level improved substantially. So people were able to, you know, get into those. So that rush in demand that is not met by the supply side that you don't want to hear, it will make prices.
I want to see if I can hear something else.
Yes,
you know.
it will make prices to go up. So, but the projection now is that as we get into January, February, you know, the governor also mentioned the issue around harvest, very good harvest that happened last year. Those will be hitting the market very soon. In the silos and all this aggregation that central bank has done in order to make sure that when things are getting tight in the market, it releases to the market so that, you know, those that are doing hoarding and all those market unions or that, you know, jack up prices, all those distortions within the system are being checked. So if we, you know, add up all those factors, we'll see that over the period, next periods, month on month, we'll see inflation number going down. And towards the end of the year, we see inflation going far, far below the 15% mark we have.
Okay,
now.
I'll take you people on that. And I have a lot of issues to discuss with you, but let's leave it. This is the first meeting for January. And just like they say, let's sit down and look first and see how your decisions will really crystallize, because there are also other things that we'll watch. The federal government has postponed fuel subsidy now, how that policy expectation initially for 2022 would also drive, and what the CBN or the MPC will be looking at, energy tariffs and all of that. But like I said, we're sitting and looking if there's anything like that till March.
Yes,
unless you're
even the Monetary Policy Authority are also watching, but they're just not sitting down. They're looking at numbers, they're looking at developments and doing their estimation. But like you said, if the subsidy had been removed, it would have implication for inflation. So for the fact that even in the communique it was mentioned how there's a need to be systematic, stepwise, you know, and providing alternatives before outright removal of subsidy, because it's part of the factors that you build into core inflation.
Dr. Mahmud, thank you for coming today. I will see you soon. I don't know if I can see you soon before March. I don't know, it seems
Hopefully,
like everything.
CBN is really available to have a chat with you.
All right, thank you very much for coming. I've been speaking with Dr. Hassan Mahmud, who is the Director of Monetary Policy Department at the Central Bank of Nigeria. And we've been talking about the January 2022 MPC decisions. Please join us again tomorrow for another edition of the program. I am Nancy Naji. Be the best you can be and be that change that you want to see. I'll see you all again. Be good. Bye.